All right. I'm Amanda Kimball,
I'm Jessie Keller.
and we'll get started with that first question. It says, what doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to I've been watching Royal or something like that on Netflix, so I'm thinking abdicate. Advocate. Why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart to be passionate and persistent? The one thing when I read that question was what he was telling to one of the servants that worked in the kitchen, and where he was saying, oh, so you found God? And he's like, no, God found me. And so as far as, I guess, the doctrine in his heart would be, I would think part of that. And then also, from what I gathered, where he grew up, he was taught the religious practices by a sort of monk.
Well, so that was his preacher.
Yeah. Okay.
His preacher, for all intents and purposes, who had formerly been the captain of slave ships.
Right.
And this is a true story. Do you know that?
I figured it was.
It's a true story. And his preacher really did write Amazing Grace after he had been a slave ship captain.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, he clearly taught him. I felt like the doctrine of the gospel that was in his heart was that we're all children of God. It doesn't matter if you're from Africa or if you're from England or if you're from America. Like, he just could not tolerate that other children of God were treated so poorly. It made him physically sick. It made him mentally sick. And I thought it was interesting to the message when he's like, well, I want to follow a religious life. I want to promote teachings of Christ. And well, you can do both. You can be an advocate, and in so doing, you can be furthering the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Along those lines, one thing that his friend Pitt, who became prime minister, said, do you want to use your beautiful voice to praise the Lord or to change the world? Because he was given that power to, he has those moral settings and that background that he could use that voice of his to change the world and not just praise the Lord. All right. Second question. How did Wilbur employ a theoretical approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one thing in each system and be specific.
This is a hard question.
Ron Fenbrenner. Yeah,
so if you start in the middle, individual, right? He clearly it was in his life, he practiced this. He practiced treating others with respect. And then he just kind of went out. I don't know how, you know better than I can.
No, it started in his own life, right? And then it went, one thing I noticed with his, I guess now wife, or then became wife, was when she was talking about how when he would talk, that she would listen even as a 14-year-old girl, and then she would, with her peer group say, with every ounce of sugar that came, from the sugar factories or the plantations and whatnot, there's actual slave blood and, just different things that would happen. And so it would definitely start with him, and then it would go towards, the peers that worked, that listened and that heard of him, and that they would gather together and they would talk about the slave trades, and they, basically would feed off each other's feelings about what was going on. And then it would
get into... What were the people called that they came to the ship? They were basically supporters of these slave ships.
And the ones on the ship, like they had a big dining kind of ship and listened to music. Are you talking about that one?
Yeah, and then he like all of a sudden turned this
Like, this is the smell.
little boat tour into a demonstration. What were those people?
I don't know, actually.
I feel like that was like one step further out, like from his peer group to these people like in the community, and then he went to the members of parliament, and
Right.
then like just got bigger and bigger until he finally got out to macro.
Yeah. I don't know what they, I
can't
don't know
remember
who they were. I'm not sure. I'd have to rewatch it.
They were financial. I think they were financial supporters of the slave ships.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that would make sense to have
That is
that.
why he was like he was trying to come at it from every angle he could
Mm-hmm.
until they finally came up with, you know, first the flying under the flag of the United States.
Right. Kind of going at it as a side, and then instead of straight on kind of thing. Yeah. With the flags. Yeah. And it just, he kept getting bigger with it. He would do those different groups. And then, I think one thing with him just talking in public, talking like with the games, what is that? That brings it down onto a smaller level. Like
The card
with
games?
the poker games. Yeah. And the Duke of whatever was trying to offer his slave as, you know, part of the money to keep gambling and stuff. And the way he took that and reacted to it, and then came back and sang Amazing Grace for everybody. That was another thing, just kind of on a smaller scale. But then he took it and he tried to pass bills, and he tried to do all sorts of different things, which became, you know, in the bigger scale, the different systems.
I also thought it was interesting. He got so like he got so involved in it and got so big and came so far out from the what's it called, the very middle one is
Exosystem or the mesosystem?
Mesosystem. No, the smaller one, the microsystem.
It's microsystem, right?
Microsystem. He'd gotten so far out that he almost lost his mind. Like he had come back down to that microsystem in order to like regroup
And start
to go back out.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's an important part of advocacy, is to be able to keep your bearings, because it can become so overwhelming and so all-consuming that you know he hadn't ever gotten married. He had neglected his personal life. He'd neglected his health. He'd neglected his mental. Like it just was so all-consuming that I thought it was a good warning.
Yeah. He gave up. What did the guy say? He gave up his youth and his health for this cause.
Yeah.
And then he, I guess on the macro system level of it, he tried to go against the current customs. And he tried to use, you know, like philosophy to play on the cultural values in the community, and would try to allow them to see the slave trade. It was against what they really held true to their personal moral values. And he would try and play on that philosophy of it to try and get those cultural values turn more towards the moral values and against the current customs of slave trade.
Yeah.
As far as the chrono system, that's the timeline. He fought with this for years, and it wasn't until after his friend Pitt died that things changed in Parliament to the point where it was finally an open door, and he had to wait for that open door for it to really, you know, start to actually take effect. So over a long amount of time, then he was finally able to get it to work. Yeah, those were all those. So the third question, how did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research? What evidence did they provide to persuade those opposing or on the fence?
Well, the African wrote a book.
right?
I'm just looking up when that I want to know how old that prime minister was when he died.
I think he was only in his 30s, maybe 40s. I'm not sure, because he was elected to prime minister in his 20s.
Because Wilbur died when he was like 79.
Wilbur died when what?
When he was 79.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about the time frame on that.
Let's see. He died at the age of 46.
Oh, okay.
So that it had been that long. It had been so. They started this. He was in office in 1804, and then he died in. So it was like 5 years. It was like 5 years, and then Wilbur had to go.
That's crazy.
So anyway, sorry, that was a total sidetrack.
You're good. That was part of the previous question with the chronosystem stuff. So yeah. As far as sharing their research, they would bring in the actual, the chains, and then Wilbur had the box made so he could bring it in and show it. And that was one thing that I thought was very striking.
Active.
Yeah.
And I liked the contrast. Like, he pulls out these chains at this fancy and like plops them on this table where everything. So at the time, like, you have to remember, at the time, at those dinners, everything was so structured. Like, the hostess, like, which way they looked, looking to the left, then everybody had to look to their left and talk to the person to their left. And then she'd turn to the right, and then everybody would turn to the right and talk to the person to the right. So this is how structured these kinds of dinners were. And then these guys come in and like plop these slave chains down on the table. So I think you're right. I think that was super effective.
Yeah.
And striking. That's a good description.
Another thing that they had was the petition, full of 3,000 some odd, or what was it? It was full. of
the 300,000?
Yeah,
300,000 is what they said.
Yeah, of signatures from just a whole bunch around Britain, and
they sent people to the plantations to describe what happened, and so they had firsthand eyewitness accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And testimony. So I think he played on the emotions of people, which is hard. Even with emotions are so, like, if you tap into somebody's emotions, you can get them to do things. But the one thing that I think overrides is money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of the resistance came from, money and power from the other side.
Yeah, it showed that with, I don't remember his name, but Wilbur wasn't too nervous about him because he had in the past done stuff with Spain and the slave trade, and was, against slave trade then, so he felt that his morals would stand by him and he'd be against slave trade now. But then in Parliament, when it happened, he was like, I am against it, but because of this and this and this, and the money that he'd been given, he says to do it now would not be good. Just to cut us off, it would, with all the finances that we gained from slave trade and everything like that, it wouldn't be good to stop slave trade. So money definitely plays a big part of what people will do, especially in government. Okay, let's go to the next question. It says, how does the film portray the importance of working together as a group? What has family advocacy group work taught you? One thing that I noticed with the film portraying as working together as a group is if Wilbur didn't have that push, that group behind him to do this, he would have just, kept singing his praises to the Lord instead of getting involved with trying to do this.
Absolutely. And on top of that, they had they had different ideas. So Wilbur's not the one that came up with the idea. And to go underneath, to kind of skirt the law or kind of disguise what they were doing through the freedom of whatever, flying the American flag. That wasn't his idea. So if he hadn't had a group around him, then that wouldn't have happened. And if he hadn't had Pitt just seemed like he was his rock. Like he was his encourager and he was his his main supporter. And then the movie made it seem just at the same time as his wife kind of entered the scene and she was able to take over that supportive role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, I think doing anything on your own is difficult. There's a reason to have different perspectives and different experiences. And when it comes to advocacy, just different connections, different education. It's a more blanketed approach than just one person with one person's ideas and one person's energy trying to push something through.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly, with family advocacy group work. It has to be a group. I mean, one person can only do so much. They can only have so much behind them, but eventually they'll get burned out. And if they're not working together with others, things don't get done. And then there's a whole bunch of, everybody has, just like you said, everybody has different thoughts and different impressions, and they can all work together to do something big. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, question 5. What parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni in Alma 46? What is the Christian and professional family advocate? And how did Wilbur exemplify that? How can you be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices? I'm just bringing up Alma 46 real quick because there was something in there. Let's see if I can find it again.
Alma's my favorite book.
Yeah.
This is when he raised the title of liberty.
Right.
He was advocating for families, right?
Ouch.
And I think something that he and Wilbur had in common were that they both relied on the Lord for a lot of their strength. They came at it from a religious perspective, I think, in a lot of ways.
Do you want lunch? We'll have lunch in just a minute, okay? Almost done. Yeah. Sorry.
You're fine.
Do you want to get some pretzels until we have lunch? Okay, go ahead and get some pretzels. Okay. Well, I'll have to help you in a little bit, honey. One thing that I thought, where if he was raising the title of
you can go get her some pretzels.
Yes, it is up, but you're not having chocolate right now. No. The pretzels are on the table. She can get them. She's wanting chocolate right now. No chocolate right now.
Not helping. That's cuter.
Yeah, and many meetings.
No, a pew.
Something else Aaron I did is he got the people on his side.
Yes.
He got the people all excited and
What happened in
pointed out
Peter? Mommy, what happened in Peter?
why advocating for families was good, why sticking up for, defending the title of liberty was going to be beneficial to them. And so he was able to get the people on his side.
Mm-hmm. Using those, the Christian and those moral values. One thing that I noticed between that was similar to both of them is, raising that title of liberty, saying those who follow her believe in Christ and are Christian. Just a minute, honey. And then same with Wilbur. He would try and bring in those moral values as well when he would talk to those people. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted right now.
Don't worry, it's totally fine. I get it.
Oh, goodness. Having to be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices. The last part of the question, I was just rereading it, sorry. One thing with that last part where it says, how can you be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices, is I just keep thinking that you got to stay strong to your faith. And you've got to make sure that you include Heavenly Father in what you're doing. You pray for strength and have that continuously, because there are going to be louder voices than what you are. But with the strength of Heavenly Father and having Him behind you can bring your voice up just as loud, if not louder, and be able to be heard by those and be effective.
I agree. I think something also is you need to live your life in a way that you can keep your credibility, and avoiding attacking your opposition also goes a long way. And because, I think the movie, they had some good writing where there was some back and forth and some banter, and I know that's kind of the way that they do it in the English Parliament, is they snipe at each other a little bit back and forth. But I didn't know anything when he attacked personally any of his opponents. And possibly because he didn't do that, he was able to sway some people from being in opposition to being on his side.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't remember seeing any personal attacks in that either. Even when it was almost like with the card game where he was being pretty much personally attacked, where he stepped away from it. He knew when to remove himself from something and not just fight back and personally attack somebody else.
Right.
All right, we'll go to the next question. Is it Marcia? How do you say her name? Marcia Barlow? It's Marcia. Spoke on persuasive speaking and writing. Did Wilbur and others exemplify any of Marcia's ideas, and how so? I would say, yeah. He brought in, sorry, my husband's calling, I'll call him back later. He brought in, testimonies of those who have gone through this situation, who were on the slave trips, like his old preacher. Towards the end, after he wrote down, his confession, he says, use this. And then he would bring in that personal, like, this is what's going on. And then he would, sorry, and get their, we just talked about it. We just said this word earlier, and now it's gone. I'm so sorry. Their feelings, their personal emotions. He would bring in their emotions with it. He would get a personal connection to what's going on. I'm like, what is that word?
So I think so. They kept referring to his voice, and it was in reference to his singing voice. But I think there was double meaning. He had a voice. He had a voice to listen to, whether or not he was singing. They also wanted to listen to him, and they responded to him when he spoke because he was passionate, he was engaging, and could relay a message in a way that made people want to act. And so he absolutely employed the skills that Barlow talked about.
Yeah, and he would do that, and then he would bring in facts, and he would bring in, what is actually happening? How many people actually die? Like when he was saying it was a ship of 600 slaves and only 200 were delivered. And the conditions that are on there. And he would not just say it's, this is what's happening and this is how people feel, but this is also what's happening. And these are the facts and the evidence that goes behind it as well.
Backed up his claims.
Right. Let's see. The next question says, what role did the government, policy, and religious freedom play in the fight of slave trade? Did you see their political systems being pro-family? Why or why not? Answer all the questions.
So I think it was an interesting question because at the time, everybody was Christian almost. Right? So it wasn't a question of, Christians versus atheists or something like it is today. Everybody was Christian. Everybody supposedly had the same values. But they were far apart on this issue. So when they asked the question, let's see exactly what it says. What role did the government, policy, and religious freedom play in the fight of the slave trade? So I think part of his argument was this is not Christian, like this behavior is not Christian. That was able everybody was able to hear that. Though I think that many in the government, because of the desire for power and money, it's still pretty peaceful because it was they all had the same value system.
Yeah. The one thing that I feel like the government had in playing, in the fight of slavery was more of against it. The government itself was afraid to stop the slave trade because of the financial stability that it provided. And then with the moral grounds, those who were moral even knew the slave trade was strong, but still wouldn't change because of the policies. I would say things need to be done gradually and not all at once. Political systems seem not to care about the people and disregard what the petitions of thousands of people had signed. And the politics had moral values, but would do nothing about them because the politics set in place. And I honestly didn't feel that the political system that they had was pro-family.
I think they were not pro-family, but they tried to disguise the argument in a pro-family way. They're saying our people need the money. Our people, we can't take this away from them. They won't. They kept saying there wouldn't be any sugar trade at all if there was no slavery. Like they tried to disguise it in a package of our families will suffer if we get rid of the slave trade.
Right.
And it wasn't pro-family, even though they tried to wrap it in that.
Right. They would try and use the family as an excuse, but it really wasn't for the family. If anything, it was more just for finances and for the money.
Yep.
Yeah. The next question says, do you feel that Wilbur used his time on earth well? How do you see him showing the elements of consecration in Elder Christopherson spoke of? And honestly, I think he did use his time well. He spent a lot of the time you know, those years that he had to help with those slave trades. So he knew that moral values and what Heavenly Father wanted, and with the help of others, he was able to finally get his voice heard over time and get things changed. I know, you know, if he hadn't been the one to use that voice of his to do this, it probably would have taken a lot longer for the, you know, abolition of the slave trade to be abolished, to have that slave trade gone.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with you. He used his time well. I think he could have been a little bit more measured in how much time he gave, because he did. It was a detriment to his health.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say that he used his time well on Earth.
Definitely. I don't remember what reading it was, or if it was just a comment from somebody else in class, but they were saying, you know, that if you're going to be an advocate, you want to do it well, but you don't want to give up what you have as well. Like, you don't want other things to suffer because of it. Like with your family.
I think Sister Maker has referenced that.
Was that what it was? I remember that somewhere in the background. And with that, he used his time well, but he got so involved in it and so everything that his health, he physically declined because of it. So yeah, just repeating basically what you said, but just remembering that somewhere back there. You want to get involved and you want to do what you can, but you don't want other things to suffer because of it.
Right.
Any other profound thoughts or personal insights from the movie related to child and family advocacy? There were 2 quotes in there that I wrote down, and I talked about one earlier, was, do you want to use your beautiful voice to praise the Lord or to change the world? And there are those who are great at speaking. You know, in class, they can get up and they can speak and they can do a speech, and it's, you know, they grab the attention of people, but then they have no desire to, you know, do that after school. When they talk in church and they, you know, they do different things, but then they don't go out and actually make a difference when they have that potential and beautiful voice and be able to do that. And the other thing that a quote that I got was from his preacher was, God sometimes does his work with a gentle drizzle and not storms. And I thought that was neat because, you know, when talking about family and child advocacy, you've got so much going against you and you've got so much going for you. And the world cannot be changed in one day. It's going to take time and to basically keep fighting. And one drip, as he was saying, at a time, then things can change. And it's not just going to be this whirlwind of a storm that comes in and does it, but it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. But one drop at a time can slowly change a person's heart.
Yep, I agree.
Yes.
My
I think it gave the good message that one person can make a difference. It kind of reminded me of the book of Sacred Duty. Wilbur kind of felt like he had a sacred duty. And that, just as you said, it just, there's a quote, I can't remember, it's something, it was from one of the general authorities. It was like, along the lines, it's like extraordinary things come from ordinary people just doing good things over and over again on a daily basis, and then that's how the extraordinary comes to be, and that was Wilbur's life.
Yeah, I know what quote you're talking about.
Hate it when I can't know exactly the words of the person. I'll have to look it up now.
Yeah,
But that was the gist of it.
That's one reason why in the video is I heard really striking quotes. I'm like, okay, I gotta type it down, otherwise I'll forget it. And don't know how to say it, but it happens all the time. But yeah, I agree with you. Okay, question 10, and then we got one more. What was your understanding of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of the semester, and how has it changed?
I don't think that my understanding has changed. I feel like I had a pretty solid grip on what the doctrine of the family was. But this has been my favorite class that I've taken. And I feel like it opened up my mind. I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is my niche. This is what I'm supposed to do. And when I read my patriarchal blessing and it talks about seeking a vocation, get my education, and then I need to pick a vocation where I can spread the gospel. And I have a really hard time figuring out what that is. And I'm 44 dang years old. And I'm a photographer, and so I'm like, okay, I guess I can spread the gospel through photography, but nothing ever really clicked and felt exactly like that was what it was supposed to be until I took this class. And I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what it's supposed to be.
Wow, that's great. I wish I could say that. I did say it along the same lines, like that my thoughts and my feelings about, the doctrine of the family really hasn't changed much. But for me, it was more along the lines of my role as a mom, my role as a wife in the home. And I always have wanted to be an at-home mom, and I am blessed to be able to have that and to have a spouse who is working with me as an equal partnership, and I'm blessed to have that. But it basically made me kind of think and stand back for a minute at just how important a mom's role truly is in a family, which almost kind of scares me, especially with this being an advocacy class, because it does kind of make me want to do something, but I'm still at the point of I don't know how, or I don't know what, and I don't know where I can start implementing those kind of things towards the world. And I'm glad that that's this is what I want to do. That for you that's great, but I'm still kind of like I don't know. But it really opened my eyes more towards how important me as a mother, my role is, and that even though sometimes they're like, oh, I could be doing so much more, I could be working, I could be doing this and that and helping your family in other ways, but for me to be in the home and to be with my kids and to teach my children that's okay, that's a good thing, it's not to be frowned upon, it's what needs, I'm doing what I need to do. And that was more of a realization through this class for me, to say that I'm okay where I am. I'm doing what I love, and that's what I need to be doing.
Well, you're in the really a really hard. I mean, I feel like every part of parenting is like a really hard part of parenting. But the stage that you're at right now takes a toll on you mentally, because you're not talking to other adults very often.
No.
You can go a day or two without taking a shower because you're tired or you just don't feel like it, and then it makes you feel worse, and you can't keep your house clean, like an uphill battle all the time, and you always want to eat, and you're like, I just made a meal, why do I have to make another meal? And you're just in this really hard part of parenting. It just really is hard to keep your mental bearings on the importance of what you are doing, the long-term effects of what you're doing, because you're raising little advocates, right? The way you raise them will determine how they are going to go out into the world. They are going to advocate. They are going to fight as important work.
Thanks. It's like everything you said. I can't keep my house clean. I can't do this. I can't do it.
In there, man. I remember how that feels. Like you can't put something in spot and expect it to be there 10 minutes later. You just can't.
You can't. You clean the living room, and then by the time your husband gets home, it's like the way it was in the morning, and it's like, what? Why did I even try?
Yep. And people, my husband, I remember when I first had my kids were little, he'd come home and he's like, so what'd you do today? What did you do today? And he meant it completely innocently, but I would take immediate, like, is he trying to like make a list of things that I accomplished? Because I really felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything. Like it was my own issue. I'm like, clearly he doesn't think I accomplished anything either. He needs a list of what I did today, which is what he was asking, you know. And it's just hard. It's just a hard time. It's just a hard time. So take heart. And it goes super fast, and then you look at pictures of your kids, and you're like, oh, they were so little. I can't believe I felt that way. They were so little.
Yeah, that's where I am. You're right.
And parenting doesn't get easier, but it you will get to the point where you feel mentally capable again, and you're like your sanity, and you're not feeling so bad about yourself. You'll get to that point, and you'll have other issues that you have to deal with. So good luck with that one.
Thanks. Oh goodness. Well, as far as that goes, it ties into the next question. For me, it says, and this is our last question. It says, picture your spouse and children, current or future, and write down some thoughts about how they will benefit from you taking this class.
Well, I think you answered that perfectly.
Yeah. I hope anyway. I hope.
Yep, it's rough, but it's worth it. It really, really is. And your kids, because like my oldest is 17, and you have these real conversations and insights that you get from them. You just are like, this person, like I created this person, and he's this pretty much like an adult, and he can teach me things, and I can learn things from him, and like get his insight, and he goes out into the world. High school is 3,000 students, the biggest high school in the country.
Wow.
3,000 students, 2 grades, 11th and 12th grade. And he goes to the school, and there's so much bad there. There's so much wickedness, and he goes, and he is able to. He has that voice. He has that voice where people want to be around him, and they want to listen to him. I always tell people, compliment me. They're like, you did such a good job. And I'm like, really, honestly, it came that way. I didn't really do a whole lot. But the truth is, I must have done something. Like, he survived living with me for 17 years.
Right.
I must have done, I'll take a little bit of credit at least. So that's what you have to look forward to, is when they get older, and they're their own little forces of nature, and their own advocates that they find important. And I see my 14-year-old son doing the same thing and going down that same path. And then my littlest, my 9-year-old even, she, in her own way, she is learning to be an advocate too. And she's learning to fight for things that are important, and learning to talk to people about religion. It's awesome because actually where we live, it's in Plano. It's like the Plano area of Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And there's a huge population of Muslim, and there's lots of Indians, there's lots of Asians, there's lots. I mean, there's a huge diversity here. Yeah. And to her, talking about religion is completely normal, and to know that it's just important for her Muslim friends to be able to practice their religion as it is for her to practice her religion. I just feel like that's giving her lessons that are invaluable and she'll go throughout her life fighting for freedom of religion, because she knows it's outside of herself. She knows that it's just as important to Muslims and Jews and anybody else that she knows, because she sees that they're good people too, and that they did have the ability and right to be free too. So
That's awesome.
So you'll get there
Eventually.
and then you have then you have to worry about like other horrible things that kids do. Like listening to bad music and texting and
All that
pornography and
yeah. I look forward to being able to feel like I'm on the right track again. But at the same time, I don't look forward to that. Oh,
Also, your success as a parent when they're in their teens, or how you parent when they're little. Because there's lots of things that I've learned in these parenting classes and child classes, and which I didn't know that when my kids were 5 and 6,
right.
15,
Now.
16, 17.
So
You'll do fine.
Thanks.
It's been
There's
great.
a lot of people who think they'll be fine anyway, but I'm just like, but.
You're like, but I don't feel fine right now.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Just remember that. Just hear my voice in your head on those days. It's like, yeah, Jesse said I don't have to shower every day.
Be nice if I felt like I had time to take a shower every day anyway.
It's totally fine. You don't have to take a shower. Like, there's way more important things to do than taking a shower.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that would be it.
All right.
So my
Well, it's been a
question-
good semester. I'm so glad we're in the same group.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This has been crazy. I'm glad it's over.
I'm ready for Christmas break.
Just a few little wrap up things and we're done.
Yep.
Yeah. So how close, or I guess we'll stop the broadcast before I open this can of
Okay.
worms. All right. I'm Amanda Kimball.
I'm Jessie Keller.
Thanks.